Goal setting. Dear dreamer, thankfully you still have 11 months. Wake up and get ready to set a few goals, lest life remains a dream. This evening, get to know the path to setting goals. So, very nice. And you are all called dreamers. That's very nice. You know what our former president Abdul Kalam said, right? Dreams are not something that you get when you sleep at night. Dreams are what keeps you awake. It is something that dreams will give you energy. And if a person does not have a dream, that person is aimless, becomes a captive, or becomes a follower of someone else who has dreams. There are two kinds of people: those who have a dream and those who don't have a dream, but they end up following someone who has a dream. Okay, so it is very important to have a dream. But before I talk totally about goal setting, I just, by the way, I may request the host to kindly let me share if it is possible. It's a small group, so there will be no problems. If you don't mind, if you can let me share. So I just wanted to say one thing before we go into, I just want to give some very practical tips about how to set goals. Very practical, very down to earth, not high funda stuff. Okay, but I just want to say just one thing, and to prove my point, I will take. Okay, it is still not able to share. To prove my point, I will. Then no problem. We can look at it from the scriptures. To prove my point, I just want you to just turn to Mark's Gospel, 5th chapter, and verses 1 to 5 is what we will look. If it is possible, host, kindly let me know if sharing is possible. If not, no problem. We'll go ahead with the scriptures. Okay. So in Mark's Gospel, 1st to 5,
think you've been made co-host.
I've been made co-host. Okay, so I can share. Yes, yes, wonderful. I hope you can see my screen now. Yeah, can you see the portion
Yes,
that I
I
was referring to? Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much.
yes.
You're really quick and smart. So I want to say that one thing, that our purpose is most important, because more important than the goals that you set is the purpose. More important than how you travel is where you are traveling. You know, in corporate world, they keep talking about the differences between management and leadership. Management is doing things right, but leadership is doing the right things. So you have to do the right things, in the sense your direction is first important, then only you come to how you get there. I hope that is very clear. And to that, I'm giving a little extreme example. You may ask me, why, Anna, you're giving this example of this, this person of this demon possessed man who is in the tombs and all. Why you're giving that example, Anna? We are all not like that. What do you think about Tammy, Anna? We are all holy people and all. No, I know this is an extreme example, but I want to say very subtly, the devil just switches one or two words in our mindset. You know, when we are singing the song and we sing, it's all about you, Jesus, it's all about you, and it's all about you. We might sing that song, but in our goals and all, it could be all about me. That could be the very subtle but a very dangerous difference in direction. You can either serve God or you don't serve God. There is no middle ground. You know, some like this example, there's another example in the 5th chapter of Acts. You know, a couple, Ananias and Sapphira. They thought, like many Christians in Hyderabad especially think, that you can have one leg here and you can have one leg there. We can say that, you know, we are completely dedicated to God. Whatever we have, we possess, is completely yours. But we can keep something back. But that doesn't work. You know how it ended up. So it's very important, the direction. You have to ask yourself, what is my possessive ambition this evening? Is it about glorifying Jesus or is it about me? Yes, young people have a lot about me because we are living in an age which has become all about me. I, me, myself, my iPhone, my iPad, that kind of a generation. It's all about me. And it's a subtle difference. And I've seen that even in youth fellowships and this thing and all, where there is a chance to sing or to do a choreography and all, sometimes the emphasis shifts and it's all about my talents and how I can showcase talents. But deep down in your heart, is it about glorifying Jesus or is it about glorifying yourself? There is no middle ground. If it is about you, it leads to a terrible end. The direction, there is a way that seems right to man, but in the end, it leads to destruction. There is a way that seems right, and it seems right. And I'm telling you, it's possible that you can be in a Christian environment and still at the core in your heart, it can be all about me. This was illustrated very beautifully by Sadhu Sundar Singh. He was the apostle of the bleeding feet, right? And to some question, and he had some people who were so attracted by the serenity that he had. He walked all the way from Punjab across that Himalayan belt and he reached Tibet. I believe he was walking barefoot most of the time. And at one point of time, to illustrate a point, he was walking beside a stream and he reached out into the icy cold water of that stream and he picked out a stone, and that stone was completely round because for centuries water, the gurgling streams have been flowing over it. And he took out that pebble which was completely wet and he broke it on a rock. He broke it very hard, he hit it against a rock, broke it, and he asked them what is there in the center, and they said it. They didn't understand what he was saying, but he had to illustrate and tell them it's absolutely dry in the center. For centuries under the stream it was, but it had not penetrated. So it's possible you could be in a complete Christian environment doing all the outwardly, you might be wet, you know but inwardly you could still be dry. So I just wanted to ask you, what is your purpose? Now, when this man, he would have started out like any young person started out, it would have been, when it's all about you, you don't realize how far you're going in the wrong direction. And what happened to this man? Look at this whole thing, this man there. Firstly, he went away from all his family and his friends. When you are pursuing your own goals, your own ambitions, it takes you away from people. It takes you away from people. And that is one sign. You fight with people. You don't get along with certain people. You are, but if you are setting goals where your purpose is glorifying God, it'll always lead you to people. I want to just give a contrast between Mark chapter 5 and Acts chapter 16. I can't show both here, but you know that incident there where Paul and Silas were in the jail and they were singing songs at midnight and there was an earthquake. You know, they were with people. They always, the Spirit of God, if you are following God, if your purpose is God, it always leads you to people. It leads you to peaceful climes. You're getting along with people. You love people. But if you're pursuing you try to eliminate people from your life, your own selfish goals. Number two, you see that they tried to control, it was uncontrollable. A time will come. Many people told me, when I was in my 20s, it was a harmless habit. But now I let it go beyond 30 and then beyond. I never knew that the habit that I used to control now controls me. I can't give up. It could be any habit. Even your lazy habits will get onto you and they will start controlling you and you'll be uncontrollable. This man, no one could control him, not even with a chain. They couldn't control him. And it is true, I've seen some addicts. I've seen, and I'm referring to a person from Secunderabad from a good Christian family. The addiction controlled him so much that, he used to steal from his own home. They could not trust him. That is where your me thing leads, you know. And there's no logic about many of these things, because I've seen doing very well, very selfish people. They come up, they fight for their promotion, this, that, they're doing very well. But I can't understand the logic. When they're taking care of themselves so much, why is it that they have some habits which actually destroy them? That is the lack of logic when you are not pursuing God's purposes in your life. Number three is he was unhappy. He was roaming night and day among the tombs and in the hills. There will be no joy in your life. There's that song in my childhood, we used to listen to it, Rolling Stones. I can get no satisfaction, though I tried, though I tried, though I tried, though I tried. I can get no satisfaction. Even people, many of the goals nowadays, especially those, I come from the corporate world, they call it the rat race. It will never satisfy you. Whatever you reach, if you don't have godliness and contentment, you won't be satisfied. You'll be unhappy. That is also a sign that you're going in the wrong direction. And number four is, he was cutting himself with stones and he would harm himself. It was unhealthy. As I told you, I can't understand. They talk about many people fitness, but some of the things that they do are so unhealthy. Stress also is unhealthy. The ambition that makes you earn so much money makes you get up in the morning and see what are the stock prices the previous night, and then keeps your eyes always on that. And when the stocks fall, you're so depressed and defeated. That stress is also unhealthy, and so your relationships are gone, your control is gone, your happiness is gone, and your health is gone. Those are all signs that you're going in the wrong direction. You see how Paul and Silas, how exactly opposite. They were following God. Their purposes were God. Now you might ask me, but Anna, that means, does everyone have to be in full time? It will be great if you can. I mean, if you will, and God should lead you there. But I'm telling you honestly, in my life, several times I've prayed, and I got a clear directive from God that you need not so-called full-time, leave your job and everything and do full-time, but you can dedicate every moment that you are in this job. You believe that God has placed you there and you are serving him there. Don't do the job to earn more money, to earn more position, to earn more power. That's not the thing. So with that, whenever that prayer, I used to pray and get that answer, it used to be really beautiful. So Paul and Silas, they were with people. When the jailer thought the earthquake happened and there was no control, they cried out and said, no, everything is orderly. When you are with God, there's a sense of orderliness and discipline that is so beautiful, you know. So, and then they were so joyful. And even after beating themselves and all that, they didn't beat themselves. Even after they were beaten and bruised and whipped and all that, they were not suffering to that extent with pain. Their health was still there, their strength was still there. God gives you that strength, God gives you that power. When you're with God, that peace and that joy will also have a radiance on every aspect of your life. So I just wanted to say this: when you are not with God, ultimately, this is what it says here in Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 to 3. Now, as for you, you were dead in your transgressions, and and you followed the ways of the world, the ruler of the kingdom, the spirit that is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us, gratifying the cravings of our flesh, following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by far, deserving of the wrath of God. So, most important, before we even talk about goals, just surrender if you have not yet. And Christian life is a series of surrendering and dedication and rededication. So you say, okay, 2020 has gone, Lord, 2021 is here. I want to surrender my life and I want to follow you. God, I want that wisdom to tell me when I am going astray, when I'm going in the wrong direction. Because Satan is very subtle. He'll lead me in the wrong direction. Now, what is our purpose? Our purpose is very clearly, we use this verse very much to say that all things will work out for the good. But then it also says in verse 29, for those God foreknew, he knew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son. Our purpose is to be more and more like Jesus. Our purpose is that Jesus should shine through us in everything you do. So you could be outwardly in the right direction, but deep down inside, it should be Jesus. Like the stone which could be under the water for centuries, but the water has not penetrated. You should, first of all, deep down in your heart, you should say, Lord, I don't want to waste any more moment of my life going in the wrong direction. It's pointless, it's hopeless, it's useless, it's meaningless. Like the demon possessed man. That's an extreme example, but that's where your ultimate destination is. That's what it is said in Ephesians chapter 2. You know, you're dead in your transgressions. It's already you're on the dead. But then, you know, if you're following God, you'll be conformed to the image of his son. How beautiful that your purpose in your life will make everyone around you to say, I can see Jesus in him. How beautiful. Having said that, I just want to give you some very, very, very practical tips, you know, and I hope you can still see my screen. I'll make it quick. Jesse, all going well so far?
Yes, uncle. Good.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, yeah, a few things that you should keep in mind when you are, firstly, make your goals very specific. Wait a minute, I can't see my own slide. How do I? One second. Yes, I think I can see. Okay. Yes. Firstly, create a measurable goal. So it's not enough to say I'm going to improve in my communication. By the way, I'm saying this for the last time. I will not come back to it, but your purpose is important. Under your purpose, you create goals that helps you fulfill your purpose in your life. Every one of us was created for a purpose. And the more every day you have to understand and ask yourself and ask God, Lord, what is my purpose? Remind me. Your purpose is to conform to the image of his son and to glorify the name of Jesus in your life. Now you create goals. The enemy of goals, number one, is when you create very vague goals. Like you say, I want to read the Bible this year. No, that is not a clear goal, because you could read the Bible once and say, I read the Bible. But it has to be something very measurable, right? You have to say, I want to read 3 chapters a day, or I want to read it so that I can study it. And by the way, reading the Bible is only one step. You can read the Bible, you can study the Bible, you can meditate on the Bible, you can memorize the Bible, you can even you can apply the Bible, apply what you learn from the Bible. So it should be much more than just a vague statement saying, I'll read the Bible, I'm going to improve my communication skills, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to, all those are vague. The moment you say that itself, you have lost the battle, because there is no measure, there is no specific aspect to that goal. So if you're creating goals like that, don't waste your time. Just say, I'll do this, I'll improve in this. That is meaningless, and it's not sensible to do that. Number two, once you know your destination, okay, this is my goal, let there be clear action steps. And milestones are very important. In our education system, it's different now in schools and colleges. It's quite different when I studied. But it would be just one term examination and then the end of the year examination. So whatever, now when I'm sitting in June at the start of the academic year, if I'm sitting in a class and they're teaching me something, I'm really not bothered to hear, to even pay attention or to make notes, because that end of the year, at that time I will see what notes I need and what is the syllabus and all that. It's a long way away, but that's not a smart thing to do. Education systems also have changed. It is milestone after milestone. Now many education institutions, they have regular tests almost on a weekly basis. They have assignments, all those kind of things. So also in your goal, suppose I have to read the Bible, the first milestone I'll say is, think of a reading plan. Okay. Note down what is the reading plan that I have to do. And then if I say, if I read 3 chapters a day, by this day I will complete. And reading plan need not be that you have to read cover to cover. It could be something different too. It could be thematic, it could be various ways, but whatever your reading plan, have a milestone. By this date I'll complete this. you know so that's number 2. Set yourself up for success. Make bad habits inconvenient and good habits convenient. So I think I have told this very much. This was mentioned in one of the YFC meeting itself. Ajit Fernando was talking about how he would ensure he would have his quiet time. I'm sure you all know he's a good friend of Ebi and Nehemiah and all. Was the Sri Lankan director, Youth for Christ, now at large, and very good and very powerful speaker. In his university days, he said, "This is how I used to ensure that I'll have a quiet time. I'll put an alarm for that early morning, whether it is 4:30 or 5 a.m. I'll put the alarm, and so that the alarm will ring and I will get up." But then what he would do is the alarm would ring and he would just reach out his lazily his hand and tuck, just turn off the alarm. So then what he did, he had a brainwave. He put the alarm at the other corner of the room. So he can't just reach out from his bed and turn it off. He'll have to get up, walk there, and go and turn it off. But he found even after that, he would come back and he would sleep. He was so sleepy. So you know what he did? Look at this wonderful thought. I mean, all this is setting himself up for success. He put some obstacles on the way in the night before he slept. Between the alarm and his bed, he put some chair or table like that. In his sleep, he would get up and go and bang into that, or he'll have to climb over that or something like that, and he would feel awake. Look at the kind of preparation he does to set himself up for success. You have to set yourself up to success. Think seriously about it. If you're serious about the goals, there's no limit to your creativity, how you will set yourself up for success. Number 4, plan for obstacles. What happens normally with New Year resolutions is something will happen. There will be an outstation trip. So you can't go for your daily run. It's not clear. So, you know, make your goals in such a way that even, you plan for these things. None of these come unplanned. So if it's an outstation trip, if I have to read my Bible every morning, I will plan for those obstacles. Okay. I will, first of all, I'll say, okay, maybe I'm traveling in all night and reaching there in the morning, and morning is a meeting. So maybe I can't do it. So that's an obstacle. I can't have my quiet time. I can't read the Bible. So, but I have thousands of different ways to continue. Maybe I will change the timing for that day. Maybe I will, you know, work a little hard. I will plan for, I will record my own voice reading the Bible, and that is convenient. I can listen to it even if I'm in the train or if I'm in an airport or something like that. So I've still met my commitment. I believe the engine drivers, my dad used to travel a lot through YFC only, and he had a very funny habit. He used to go and talk to the engine drivers. And, I believe they know there's certain zones which are very dangerous, derailment zones. So they're extra careful. Beforehand itself, they plan and they go slower there. Even if they have a green signal, they go a little slower. They make sure they're looking out for certain things. So they're extra careful during those tough days. So also you'll have to plan for these obstacles. Many people say, I didn't realize, and after I went on that trip and came back, the habit gone, and now I'm not reading my Bible. Urgently, they called me for Bangalore. Yes, these urgent things will happen, but you plan what will, suppose this obstacle happens, what will I do? You have to plan. Number five, there's no pressure on 1st January. So 1st January is over, and many of you will be saying to yourself, actually, you will not be saying to yourself, Satan will be telling you, you know, 1st January is over, so leave it now. This year is gone. Gaya, chale gaya. Leave it. Don't do anything. So, no, 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 no. You can, there's nothing like that. In fact, I recommend very seriously that no time is a bad time. Any time is a good time to set goals. You can start tomorrow. It is nothing like that. I mean, after all, these are milestones for our benefit, you know. And in fact, even if I'm planning it before 1st January, if I'm starting on 1st January, if I'm a little smart, I will not have all my goals starting on 1st January. First of all, I'll not have too many goals. Between 3 to 5 is good, it seems. Lesser than 3 is, I mean, you're taking it too easy. More than 5 will be little crowded. But I need not start. Suppose I'm having 4 goals. I need not start all on 1st January. I can ease it out. I can pace it out. I can plan it out. So you can do that. Don't worry. And so you have no excuse even today to set some righteous goals, some godly goals in your life. It should not be goals that will lead to me, 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 me. It should be goals that lead to more and more like Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Number six, you know, it's very exciting to track your progress. I like those sheets where you read the Bible and you mark it. Sometimes I mark in my Bible. Some people say, no, 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 it's a sin to write in the Bible, but I don't think so because it makes it really exciting for me. You know, I make notes in the Bible. So when I flip through the Bible, by the notes itself, I can see what I have written, and it's very satisfying for me. I'm giving you just one example today about reading the Bible, but it could be any goal. It could be about your walk. Nowadays you have pedometers, you have so many things that count and all those things. Track your progress and it gives you great satisfaction you know and then lastly, learn from your mistakes. you know so what I mean to say, one second, I'm not able to see again my own screen. So first of all, you know you should first of all set goals that are doable. I'll talk to you about SMART. I think many of you know it already, but it should be specific, measurable, attainable, or achievable, result oriented, and time bound. SMART. Specific, measurable, attainable, result oriented, and time bound. Okay. And so I like that Bible plan where, it is 5 days a week of Bible reading. And then they give you in that plan a holiday on Saturday and Sunday. And that is also a time when you can catch up. So it's easy, it's very practical. But after all that, making it easy, you track your progress, you identify the steps, you set yourself up for success, you have a measurable goal, you track your progress, and you plan for obstacles, everything, still you will make mistakes. And this is the time Satan talks to you big time, discourage you. By the way, you know, when we give testimonies and all that, we say, I heard God speaking to me. I'll tell you a grim reality. Very often, very often, devil speaks to you more than God speaks to you. You know why? Because we like listening to the devil's voice more sometimes, and it comes in a very attractive way. Sometimes it's very powerful, it discourages you. You know, words that someone has said will keep repeating. I'm reading the Bible, and then those thoughts are coming. He said I'm good for nothing. He said I can't do this. I don't have memory power. My teacher said that I don't have concentration. All those negative thoughts are from Satan. God is not like that. God is willing to forgive your mistakes. So if you've done some mistakes, don't think it's end of the road. God is a God of second chances, not just second chances, multiple chances. So mistakes are no problem. In fact, mistakes make you stronger, but you learn from your mistakes. So I hope these practical tips, I will end now. And if you have